Hey everyone, my name is Pastor James Shulker. Most people just call me Pastor James. And I pastor here in the Sauk Village area. And I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about my story and maybe hopefully help you out as you work on thinking about what your career should be. So I grew up in a little town called Independence, Oregon. Very, very small. In fact, our high school was not bigger than your junior high, where you guys go to school right now. It wasn't bigger. My graduating class was about 80 individuals. Grew up there, lived there my whole life, kind of a farming community. That's what we were known for. Graduated high school and joined the Air Force. Spent 10 years in the Air Force as a firefighter, as well as working with planes. Was able to spend some time over in Saudi Arabia. In Bahrain, which is a little island nation off the coast of Saudi Arabia. Served there 10 years. Served in the military for 10 years, in the Air Force 10 years. When I got out, I joined up with retail, so kind of like a Walmart, and started managing Walmarts, and ended up moving from Portland, Oregon, up into Washington State, the center of Washington State, which is actually a desert area, a lot of grassland, a lot of rolling hills. A lot of people think of Washington State as just being beautiful, raining all the time. It just didn't rain a lot because we were in a desert. So kind of the center of Washington. Lived there until 2005, when I moved out here to the Chicagoland area in 2005 to start working with a company that was an electrical distributor. This electrical distributor, basically, depending on the industry that you're in, they furnish anything from light bulbs to those massive transformers, the things that carry the power from power line to power line. Some of my biggest customers were Ford Motor Company, and as well as I worked with local contractors, some that work right here in this area. My role starting out was on the credit collection side. So helping them get credit so they could purchase material, as well as collecting the money when they weren't paying and making sure that they stayed up to date on that. In that career, it was interesting because I started out as a customer service analyst. So at the lowest level, basically making phone calls to delinquent accounts that had not been paying, or they were late on their payments. I started out, I said, in July of 2005 doing that. At the same time, I was also an associate pastor, working with youth, doing worship, as well as teaching when the senior pastor wasn't around. So I did both roles for quite some time. In the electrical distributing side of the world, it ended up where I ended up getting raises and promotions, working hard to do that. And finally, I was able to move into a different role because they ended up seeing something in me as we converted from an old computer system to a new computer system, right? So part of what happens in that environment, if you can imagine, you were using an old phone, and when you go from one phone to another phone, what people don't always understand is there's people behind the scenes that are doing testing, like beta testing, right? Well, in our company, it was just very, very similar. So I was brought in to lead the project to beta test the system and help create a system that would work within our company. We were a Fortune 400, or they are a Fortune 400 company, so rather large. It was a $10 million project that I got to lead from a technical side, a functional side, which means functional means that I was the individual that knew how to do the job. I wasn't writing the code. I wasn't creating scripts and programs to make the system do what it needed to do. I was testing and helping them figure out how to make the system the way it needs to be to work within my company. So I did that for several years, and it opened up a brand new world to me, and I became what they call a change manager. So what change manager is simply an individual that goes into an environment, goes into a situation, observes, learns about the individuals and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then helps them become better. Okay, so if you guys know, if you like basketball, think about a coach who comes in and he's watching someone shoots free throws over and over again, right? And he's looking at him and saying, okay, hey, let me help you, right? Because your form is incorrect. You're holding the ball wrong. Your release point is wrong. Something is wrong. Let me help you. That's change management. And so I was able to do that all over North America, United States, Canada, and spend time doing that. So I did that for 11 years in this Fortune 400 company. And then finally in 2016, I quit that job and became a full-time pastor in the village, in the Sauk Village area, as well as still working with my denomination, their regional activities. So we have churches all over Wisconsin, as well as Chicagoland, about 45 churches that I personally work with as the chairman of the Bishops' Council, as well as a district elder. And I also train all new ministers and any minister who wants to move up and get further education. Currently, I'm also working on another degree. This degree is a master's degree in church management, on building leaders and equipping them. So what I learned from all my careers was the idea that I know what I was created to do. I was created to help individuals become better, to better themselves, right? And so that's why I became a pastor. I believe God had called me to help people come into a relationship with Jesus Christ, and also to move forward and become the better them that they need to be, that they move forward. So that's why I transitioned. Was excited to finally be able to afford to pastor full time. And so salary range, one of the questions. It really depends on the size of your church, because everything is based on donations, right? So as a church, if you have plenty of money coming in, you're able to pay pastors. So there's a lot of pastors. In fact, I pastored for almost 15 years without ever receiving a salary. What degree is required? That's based on the denomination that you're part of. So if you are, like we are, Church of God, or maybe you're Catholic, Roman Catholic, doesn't matter what, Baptist, whatever, different denomination, they all have different requirements. Our denomination requires that you go through some training first, which I had already alluded to that I'm part of. I lead the ministerial training department within our region. All that to say, I kind of wanted to give you a background to just kind of show you my varied life. I started out high school. I actually worked at Dairy Queen. I've worked at lumber mills. I picked strawberries as a child to make money. And I've had a multiple jobs all the way through. And in the church world, I've had multiple jobs: worship leader, youth leader, assistant pastor, associate pastor, senior pastor, youth director for the region. So I've done a lot. And I wanted to share with you just a couple of things that I've learned during those times that hopefully will help you. The number one thing that I think when I look about what I learned and what I try to tell youth like you guys, when you're picking your life, when you're picking your career, to think about what is it that you love to do. And then when you pick your job, or when you pick your career, or when you start to work, you figure out what you like to do. For example, my daughter was working at Wendy's, right? And as she worked at Wendy's, and she'd been there for several months, I said, what is it that you like about Wendy's, and what is it that you don't like about Wendy's? And she began to list some of the things. She actually enjoyed making the sandwiches. That was one of her favorite things to do. What she didn't enjoy was when it got busy and the fast pace. So you've learned a couple of things about yourself. You learn that you're artistic. You enjoy the creation of things, but you also learn that you're not cut out for high pressure, right? So she began to utilize those to figure out what is her next step, where is she supposed to go? Because what I need to, share with you is that's the first thing I learned, is to look at every job and figure out what is it I like about it, and what is it that I don't like about it? What makes me happy, what doesn't make me happy. But the next thing to understand is that every position you do, every job, every career, everything you do, everything you're doing right now in school is teaching you how to be the best you can be in the future. And again, it may be things that you didn't like to do. When I was a collector, I hated making phone calls. It's one of the least favorite things I wanted to do. So I learned right away that is something that I'm not cut out to do. When I was just out of high school, I sold knives door to door, these fancy knives, Cutco knives, right? I hated that. So I figured out very quickly that I didn't enjoy the selling part. So I think those two things, thinking about everything I do, finding out what is it I like about that and what is it I don't like about that, and it helps me make my next decision. And then thinking about, okay, when I'm in this, that every opportunity is for me to learn. So as you go forward, as you guys get older, you go into high school, look at every opportunity as an opportunity for you to learn how to be better at being you.